Hello, all. This is former Pennsylvania State Constable Stephen Wiggs, and I'm coming to you guys with some potent information that follows my case in Allentown when it comes down to the District Attorney's office. Some time ago, the District Attorney office had investigated me and my residency. This is what led to my removal of my position as constable. Their 9-month investigation. The judge in the case didn't find that I didn't live at the residence. He instead chose to say that I didn't sleep there enough for him. Well, to me and many, that is absurd for a grown man to tell another grown man when to go home or how much time to spend at his house. But what I want to touch on and what I want to expose is something that the citizens of Allentown and the whole of the Commonwealth did not know. This is a sworn testimony from a fellow law enforcement official. And this event that this testimony is for took place shortly before, months before the district attorney launched his malicious investigation on me. Now, I say malicious because, well, when I read the testimony, you will see why it's malicious. Now, understand, because the case is still in litigation, yes, it is still in litigation. It's not over. I'm not going to give the law enforcement officer's name or his position in law enforcement. Okay? I'm just going to mention the parties involved that he's speaking about, which is myself and the Lehigh County District Attorney directly. Okay? So, let's give the citizens in the Commonwealth and those beyond the Commonwealth what they don't know. Testimony of events at Sunrise Diner, April 5th, 2021. This is an actual event that took place, okay? On the morning of April 25th, 2021, I was having breakfast with State Constable Stephen Wiggs at the Sunrise Diner on South 4th Street in Allentown, Pennsylvania. We arrived at approximately 08:30. We sat on the left side of the restaurant, at the counter in the middle with our backs turned to the front door. Shortly after, a man entered the diner and approached the counter to our right and greeted some of the customers. Officer Wiggs pointed out to me that the man who entered was Allentown District Attorney James Martin. District Attorney Martin then walked up behind us and stood there. I stood up and turned to introduce myself, but I was abruptly stopped because he was focused on Officer Wiggs, and in a very irate and intimidating manner said to Officer Wiggs, "What's your name?" Officer Wiggs said, "Wiggs." The DA then pointed his right index finger at Officer Wiggs and said, "I've gotten a lot of complaints about you." At this point, James Martin face turned red. His veins in his neck were bulging, and he began to shake and point his finger at Officer Wiggs. DA Martin then continued, loud enough for other patrons to hear, "I hear you were in trouble in New Jersey for impersonating a police officer too." Now, what's interesting about that statement is the district attorney tactfully did not mention the case in Philadelphia that we beat. He tactfully mentioned the New Jersey case because the case was still open. But the Philadelphia case was closed and in our favor. So he was clearly on point with what was going on in Philadelphia. So he tactfully only mentioned loudly to the patrons, well, at me, but indirectly to the patrons, that I had an open case in New Jersey, tactfully to, try to embarrass me. Going forward, note that this exchange occurred in the presence of 3 waitresses and at least a dozen customers around us. DA Martin continued his rant towards Officer Wiggs, asking him, "Why do you have counterterrorism task force on your car?" Wiggs replied, "I'm a member," which a lot of constables are. Going forward, DA Martin replied, "Do you know Bob Warts?" which was the head of the program. Officer Wiggs replied, "Not personally, but I know of him." Martin replied, "We'll see about that." The verbal exchange between District Attorney James Martin and Officer Wiggs ended. After the above exchange, the waitress served us our food and said, "All this time I was serving you guys, I thought you were police officers, only to find out you are just constables." For the record, Officer Wiggs was in full uniform and I was in civilian clothes wearing a polo shirt that had my agency emblem embroidered on the left chest. This was certified 6/10/2021. This testimony right here was certified 6/10/2021. Now, note, at that time, when the argument between me and District Attorney James Martin ended, he disappeared and went around a corner from where we were sitting, and then came back and just sat down, and he was quiet the rest of the way. And, I told this man that whatever you feel is wrong, we could go and have a conversation in your office about it all. Basically, giving him an out instead of shouting around in front of all of these patrons. But he was so bothered by my presence that this man wanted to do this in front of all of these people. And get this, the waitress that said in the testimony, all this time I was serving you guys, I thought you were police officers, only to find out you are just constables. When the district attorney returned, I said to that waitress in front of him, Pennsylvania state constables are police officers, ma'am. And he didn't say anything. He didn't say not another word. Okay? Now, there was a time where my president of my local association had to address a news outlet, some news outlet in Lehigh County, because Martin, the district attorney, was throwing around that constables weren't police officers. Then my president of my association went to the news station and showed them the laws identifying constables in Pennsylvania as police officers. And then that reporter went back to the district attorney and showed him the law. And the district attorney says, well, they're not that kind of police officer. It's either you are or you aren't. There is no in between. There is no gray area there. Okay? So this sworn testimony is what the citizens of Allentown, Pennsylvania, the citizens of the whole county of Lehigh County and the surrounding areas, as well as the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and going beyond, because you know what, the internet is what makes the world small. So my story has been projected just about everywhere throughout the United States. I even heard my story had went national. I'm apparently just that famous. Okay? So now, I just exposed sworn testimony. Okay? Sworn testimony that will come up in court. Okay? This talks to their investigation. This shows that their investigation was 100% malicious, 100% biased. 100% biased. The judge in the case that removed me from my agency, removed me from my seat, know nothing about this. Now you do. Told you guys, I got a lot of ammunition. These people are dirty, 100% corrupt. They suck, man. These people suck. No integrity. The district attorney's office showed me just how much integrity they had. And this allows it to be known that their integrity is in the basement. Once the owner of the house testified in court that he told the county detectives that I lived with him, and they didn't like what he said and threatened him to say something else, which turns into a lie. He testified to that. Their integrity went in the basement. Now, you guys see where this investigation came from, why it actually happened. This is before the investigation. This happened before the investigation. And this is because this investigation happened because what I just read to you. I stood up to that man. I stood up to that man in that diner. I did not let him talk down on me. I did not let him disrespect me in front of those people. So many people in Lehigh County is afraid of that man. The mayor even allowed him to feel like he's the boss of every police department. Or the Allentown police is like his goon squad. Last I checked, it was supposed to be the mayor that's the boss of the Allentown police. But in Lehigh County, in Allentown, Pennsylvania, it's the district attorney. That's not the way it's supposed to be. Okay? Like, they couldn't do anything with a guy like me. They had to go corrupt. They couldn't beat me straight up law. They had to go corrupt. They had to go corrupt. You guys be good. I pray everybody is well. Trust me, there's more ammunition coming. Stay tuned. Peace.